Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about what may be the most harsh treatment of a complaint in federal court that I have ever seen. It comes against Donald Trump. It's with respect to this 85-page defamation screed that he filed last week. We told you about it then. It's noteworthy for at least two reasons. First, it goes back forever. It just lays out grievances against the New York Times and its individual authors for not crediting him as being the true genius behind The Apprentice, and similar kinds of notions from like the 80s. And it just brings home so forcefully the thin skin and kind of pitiful and bottomless insecurity that he is still, fighting, waging these battles, and so energetically. That was the first thing that was noteworthy. We're going back to what the New York Times said about The Apprentice and before. So the whole, reputation he had when he first came to the presidency. And I'm thinking now of our encounter with him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner when President Obama sliced him down to itty-bitty pieces about the birth certificate and the like. He is still stewing over that, and that's one big thing. The second is, it was just, stunningly poor work in that it went 85 pages and completely bitched about the New York Times and all these things, but just simply would say, the Times repeated its defamatory, this false, blah, 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 and not a single fact. I mean, a single fact that even an allegation that like Times said this, it was false. Times knew it was false. That's the soul of the core of any defamation claim. He had none. Okay, so we knew it was very weak. I actually had a couple discussions about this, including on YouTube, where people talked about, yeah, but if he's deposed, and I was like, deposed, man, I see a motion to dismiss as coming next. I was wrong. They were wrong. But I was wrong for stunning reasons. The district court dismissed the complaint without even having a motion to dismiss. So what happens in every case, any case where a crappy complaint or any complaint is framed, the defendant comes in with a motion to dismiss under Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 12, saying, even if what the plaintiff said were correct, it wouldn't be enough to ground liability. So you can just dismiss this and not proceed to discovery. What Judge Maraday, an appointee of George H.W. Bush, said on today, on Friday, was considerably more excoriating than that, and basically said he went under Rule 8, which is just the sort of preliminary rule in the rules book saying a complaint is a short and plain statement of the claim showing that the pleader is entitled to relief. So on his own motion, he reviews Trump's opinion and just has a brutal takedown of Trump, literally the like of which, as I said, I think I've never seen before. Now, the bottom line is he says, goodbye, you can file this again within 40 days, etc. But I just got to read some of this stuff. It's crazy. Okay. Any pleading's got to have simple, concise, and direct allegations that offer a plain statement of the claim. In this action, a prominent American citizen alleges defamation, blah, 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 alleging after 85 pages only two simple counts. And now his analysis. Even under the most generous and lenient application of Rule 8, the complaint is decidedly improper and impermissible. It talks about, and then he goes, about Trump saying he won the election in historic fashion, all these kinds of crazy, irrelevant claims. And the reader, he said, must endure an allegation of, quote, the desperate need to defame with a partisan spear rather than report with an authentic looking glass, quote. And he actually goes through, and you just have to put him down rather than mock them, including, I told you about The Apprentice. He quotes from the pleading: "The Apprentice represented the cultural magnitude of President Trump's singular brilliance, which captured the zeitgeist of our time." So he's like, give me a break. What does this have to do with anything? But from there, he says, even assuming that he would offer evidence supporting allegations here, if he were ever to come to trial, even assuming that, a complaint remains an improper and impermissible place for the tedious and burdensome aggregation of prospective evidence, like what he might have, and you actually have to put it in there. A complaint is a mechanism to fairly precisely set out your allegations, and this complaint stands unmistakably and inexcusably athwart the requirements of Rule 8. And so I'm going to strike it and give leave to amend, in which you could come back with some actual possible evidence or allegations. But as things stand, it's as sort of humiliating a rejection of a complaint in sort of personal terms to the lawyer and Trump as I've seen. So even taking it to task on the absence of any evidence, Judge also says every lawyer should know that a complaint is not a, quote, public forum for vituperation and invective, and not a, quote, megaphone for public relations or a podium for a passionate oration at a political rally, or the functional equivalent of the Hyde Park Speaker's Corner, kind of crazy guys who stand up on a corner and start screaming about stuff. So that's how the judge characterizes the opinion. The Times, in its sort of, buttoned down sense, simply says, "We welcome the judge's quick ruling, which recognized that the complaint was a political document rather than a serious legal filing." So this frames the question, is there anything that embarrasses Trump? Is there any reason that this is as big a humiliation within the legal community as you can think of? And it's not simply that the lawyering is substandard. It's that the whole thing really is kind of a joke, like a guy standing up on the corner and giving the 85 reasons why he's great and no one has ever appreciated. I mean, it's a truly pitiful, just tirade. And that, and not simply as something that's not clear enough, is how the judge's opinion leaves it. So what is Trump to do? Actually come back again? Because he says something like, "We'll continue to hold big media accountable." Presumably he did this screed because he doesn't have any chapter and verse about here's what they said, here's how it was false, here's how they knew it was false, the actual core of any defamation claim. If he comes back in 40 days with, somewhat better prose, somewhat fewer pages, but no real allegations, I don't think that goes anywhere. But of course, does he care? Because none of it, and I said this at the time too, could have been designed to actually win, but it's so poor as to raise the question whether it was designed even to influence public opinion, even of his most credulous followers. So this is, as I say, usually worst thing that can happen is you have a complaint dismissed at a motion to dismiss stage. This is worse, and the judicial characterizations of what it is and what he said, and it's not just the lawyer, it's really what Trump is trying to do and how completely both irrelevant and ponderous it is. Man, oh man, that is a real demolition of what was, in fact, as I said, a meritless complaint, but one that's really so much worse than that and laughable. And the question, I guess, now comes with Trump, is anyone laughing? Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.